Right, I'm working on a 2013 Chevy Malibu here today. We're going to be replacing the front and rear brake pads on here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've got here. Well, these are both Bosch. I'm going to leave the links to these. We've got our front and rear, and it comes with the hardware. Here's our smaller one. It's going to be our rear. It comes with everything we need, some slide grease, and we're going to also have to get a caliper tool to spread the piston back. It's one of the twist-in caliper types. I'll show you that in a moment. And here's our front. So we got the hardware, and here's our front pads. And these are both ceramic. So we'll just go ahead and we're going to get started on the front. Okay, so we're going to start with chalking these rear wheels front and back since we're starting on the front. Okay, so we're going to be using a 19 millimeter. We're going to go ahead and start breaking these loose. Okay, so we've lifted it up right here on this part of the frame, and I've just placed a jack stand right there at the control arm. We'll just leave the jack in place as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and finish removing these. Okay, first thing we're going to do is pop this little rubber grommet out here. Okay, I just got a pry bar here. We're going to pry up on it. Okay, next thing up, we're going to remove this part here. And we got a 14 millimeter there. We got a 14 millimeter right up there, so we're going to go ahead and get those off. Okay, so we're going to take our 14 and just come up here on this top one first. Okay, this here is wanting to spin, so I'm going to hold that. Okay, so 17 will fit right there. We'll just loosen it off a little more. And then we'll get on this lower one. Okay, so we'll get this lower. We're going to go ahead and hold it. Okay, we'll just wiggle this up and off of here. And we can just set that right up here. Okay, now you can see these pads aren't just horrible, but definitely want to get ahead of things before they become a problem. We're going to get them replaced. Go ahead and remove, just pop this old hardware off. And while you're adding and taking, clean these up. We'll get the top one too. Okay, we'll go ahead and check these out. We'll just clean it up, put some clean grease on it. Okay, and this stuff, I use this a lot. It really works great for these caliper pins and a lot of other things too. I find it's for electrical and has a lot of uses. So it actually conditions the rubber, and it doesn't, you don't have to worry about it eating the rubber up. It actually conditions it. Alright, so we'll just slide that back in. Now you could clean this out up in here if you got one of those little bottle washers to clean the little tubes with. You could clean that out up in there and spray it out as well. See our caliper setting up here just fine. I'm just going to take this one out and clean it up same way. Okay, so you basically just want to make sure that these are moving easily. Okay, before we can put our new pads on, I've got the old pad just set it on there, and I've got a 6-inch C-clamp. You could use a 4-inch would work, and we're just going to start turning this and pushing that piston back. Now let me show you the first thing you want to check. Okay, so you want to pop your hood and come up here. You can see I've took a little bit out because when I go to pushing this up, see, it's going to be pushing up through here. So you're going to want to take a little bit out, get you a syringe, and take a little bit of that fluid out as it comes up so it's not overflowing, and have you something to put that fluid into. So basically we're just going to keep an eye on this and start pushing that piston back. And sometimes I'll spray a little WD-40 on this if it's trying to like flip and crack, just to kind of help it, because sometimes when they're extended they don't like to push back. So we're just going to keep pushing it all the way back. If you don't push this all the way back, you're not going to be able to get your caliper on once you put the new pads, because they're quite a bit thicker. Alright, so we've got it pushed back as far as it can go. So we'll go ahead and slip this off. Let's get that old pad off there. We're just going to leave that sitting there. Okay, so you can see this up here was monitoring that, and it's fine. Okay, we'll start slipping the hardware on here now. Okay, right here I spread those little tabs out slightly. They're just a little bit different from the original pads. So I just took my spreader and spread it right there, and then it popped on. Other than that, it's the same. So prior to popping this on, take and spread these little tabs right here slightly. Okay, and prior to putting these on, I like to put just an ever slight amount on these little contact points here, and that will just ensure that it operates nice and smooth. So we're going to push that tab forward there. Let's try to get the top here first. Okay, so these were a little tighter with the new hardware, and basically I got the bottom in first here. Just fed it down through here, and this little flap back here has got to pull back. Let me show you. Got this tab right here, that it tries to hang on as you're pushing it into place. It's a little bit tighter, so I was coming in right here, pushing down slightly. I guess I was like pushing right here and then give it a good push here. Okay, so now I just kind of tapped it on the place. So it is quite a bit tighter than the old ones. So we'll get the one on the back now. Okay, now this time I just put a light amount on these points before. So we've got that, the little tattletale tab. I'm going to try maybe do it the same way where I get the, let's go this way. I can see the bottom better, but it's definitely tighter, so I'm going to get my little screwdriver and pop that on in. Okay, so with this new hardware I had the same problem. I had to kind of pry up a little, just slightly with the flat screwdriver right here in this gap when I popped it into place, because it's just quite a bit tighter than the old hardware was for whatever reason. Okay, now we're just going to slip our caliper, and with it pushed back it'll go on here no problem. Just push your slide pins in slightly so it doesn't hang up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put some medium Loctite on the bolts. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and start on top bolt. Now you're going to have to push slightly up and get it started by hand. You may have to tilt it and rock it, make sure you get it threaded. You should be able to thread it most all the way down with your finger. Okay, now we'll just go ahead and thread this lower one in, make sure we can thread it down by hand as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and snug it up a little bit. We're holding with the 17. Okay, we'll get on that upper. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and torque these to 20 foot-pounds. I would go 25 max. Okay, let's go ahead and pop this back down into place. And just to show you a difference, not only these old pads in an uneven pattern, but here's the old pad and here's a new pad. So really see the difference with a new one next to it. Right, so we'll go ahead and get our wheel back on here, and then we can get on our other side. Right, so let's go ahead and snug these up a little bit. Okay, we got the jack stand out. We'll go ahead and lower this side. Go ahead and torque these to 100 foot-pounds. Okay, so it's doing the side over here, and I wound up using the old hardware and just cleaning it up on this side. I realized that the new hardware is not going to work. When I got the other side together, it was squeaking a little bit, and then I got to looking, and it was actually a little bit more narrow, so it was going to hit on the rotor and squeak. So I took it off, and we're just cleaning up, putting the original, and the pad slipped right on easily with the original hardware, so I don't know what's going on with that, if it's the wrong stuff. Now this is the pads that are over here on the passenger side. Now this is almost down to nothing, so you can see the difference. It's almost like the pads over there were even replaced, but this happens sometimes, and that's why it's a good idea when they start getting wore down to replace them, because you never know, one side's going to be completely smooth and the other ones still have a little bit on them. Okay, so you see where we're up to after pushing those calipers back, so we'll start keeping an eye on that when we work on the rear ones. Okay, so now we've switched to chalking the front wheels here. Okay, on the rear here, we've just placed it right here, and you notice we got the block, it's right in front of that stud there. And we've just put a jack stand right over here. You can just place it wherever is best. Okay, so we're just going to work on going ahead and removing this wheel back here. Okay, so once we got the wheel off, we're going to go ahead and focus on removing this caliper right here. And you can see we've just got two of these 13 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and work on getting those off. Okay, we're going to work on our upper one here, 13. And we'll get on that lower. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and completely remove both of these. Okay, so let's just go ahead and wiggle this off of here. And we'll just kind of set that up on the top there carefully. Okay, we're just going to work these pads out of here. Now it turns out that the hardware doesn't fit the front or the back for these. Don't really know what's going on. So see how some look better than the others. And here's the ones on the other side that are even worse. Okay, I'm just going to pop this hardware up, and I'm going to take my brush and just kind of clean it up a little bit. We're just going to pop it loose, and we're just going to clean them up, top and the bottom. So we're going to be reusing them. Just easier to take them off and brush them. Okay, so we've cleaned those up a little bit. Just go ahead and snap them both back into place here. So I've never had a problem with the hardware before. It's kind of odd. Okay, I've got this just sitting on a board up here on top of this, just to have something to set on. And the next thing I like to do is spray this with WD-40. Got a paper towel under here, but spray that down really good. It keeps that rubber from crinkling and stuff as best as it can. And we're going to go ahead and start twisting this back in. This is your park and brake and your brake, so it's the screw-in style. And we've got a tool here I'm going to show you. Okay, so here's the kit, loaner kit from AutoZone. And just going to take this tool, we're going to take F, and that just pops. It's like magnetic, pops right on the end there. So these are the size we need. This screws back and forth. We're going to have it screwed down here initially. This we slip over the handle like so. So then we're going to go ahead and slip that onto this caliper. Okay, so see, we're going to slip this over this, and that goes in those notches. And we're going to back this up until it's tight. Just going to turn it like counterclockwise until it's as tight. And you can use a wrench too. I usually don't have to do that, but you want to keep pressure on it, so you can get a crescent wrench or a wrench on that, or whatever you want to do there. Okay, and this may be tight initially, so you may even, like I've had to hold on with some channel locks while I try to turn this. So right now it's very, very hard to turn. That boot's wanting to try to turn with it. You may have to use a little cheater bar. Let me show you. Okay, so if you can't get it to move by hand, you want to keep this turned counterclockwise. This has to be tight to keep this tied up against here. You want to keep that, so otherwise it's not going to push it in. But if you can't turn it, get a little cheater bar and get on here, and that will get it going. But if you don't keep pressure, then all it's going to do is spin. You have to push it in. So usually I can just do this with my hand, but you can also use a crescent to keep that tension on there. So this is all you're doing. But if you're going to have trouble with it being stuck, it's going to be stuck initially when you first try to turn it. And once you get it going, usually it's no problem. But if it is stuck, or if it just seems like it doesn't want to turn and fight you every step of the way, then you're probably looking at replacing the caliper. So we're just going to take it back about as far as it'll go here. I think that right there is about all it's going to go. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead, turn the tool this way, and we'll slip it right off there. You can see that we got that pushed all the way back, and that WD-40 does help, because these rubber boots will sometimes tear, and it seems to help a little bit. Okay, so while you're doing that, you do have to keep an eye on this up here, because you don't want this to start overflowing. This is fine. Okay, we're getting ready to slip these pads on here. I like to put just a little dab on these contact points. Okay, so we're going to try to get it going straight here. The back one's usually the most trouble. Okay, so that went on no problem. And we got our back one here. Okay, with the back here, usually I have to go in at a slight angle, because it wants to hit on these nubs here. So usually I have to get it just at a slight angle. Okay, like I said, this one you have to kind of fiddle with it. It's a pretty tight fit, and you have to go in at an angle. These little tabs are getting in the way, so it's just kind of a snug fit on that one, so it may take you a minute. Okay, and just like we did in the front, we're going to go ahead and pop these out and clean them up slightly and put some new grease. Okay, we're going to go ahead and slip our caliper back on here. And you may have to push these in slightly. Alright, we're going to get some medium Loctite on these bolts. Just thread it down all the way by hand. Right, we'll get this one. Okay, and I've been torquing these caliper slide pin bolts to 25 foot-pounds, front and back. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get the wheel back on here and torque these to 100 foot-pounds as well. Okay, and because we've pushed these calipers back, before you unchock these wheels, come in here and make sure you pump these brakes up to their solid, and then we're going to go ahead and crank it, and we're going to pump it some more. We want to make sure that it's nice and all the pads are pumped up before you take off with it. Okay, you can see that the fluid actually needs a little bit, because up here's the max, but we pushed all of the pistons back and this is where we ended up at. So we're probably going to add just a little bit there. Alright, so that's going to do it on replacing these front and rear brake pads. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do so. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.